The next item in our list is the pants. So the pants are going to give us a couple of different options, a couple of other tools to look at other than just these general texturing tools. So let's close Subtool Palette. And one thing I want you to be aware of is that I have divided the model and I've done a touch of sculpting, but I've divided the model up to 3.3 million. So it's got 4 subdivision levels, and I've also gone in with the slash brush and I've just adjusted the form in some places. Okay, just to get it a little bit different. But you know, these pants are really sketched in. There's a lot of loose quality to them, and I've done that on purpose because I want to keep all of this really loose and basic, and then you can refine things and look at production as we go. So loose, basic, sketched in, but 3.3 million polys. The first item that I want to introduce you to is noise. Open up the Surface subpalette, click Noise, and in this case I've already actually put something in there, so let me put Cancel, and I'm going to actually delete that noise. So we'll start over from scratch. Noise, open up this little noise maker pop-up, and there's a lot of controls in here. You can apply it 2D, 3D, UV, noise plug-in is an option in time. And then strength and all of that. Let's just increase the strength so you can kind of get a preview of it. And let's hit OK. So there we go. That's noise being applied to the model. Let's edit it. And let's adjust the scale and lower the impact. Hit OK. Pretty standard noise. Nothing out of the ordinary, I would say, in this instance. But this isn't how we're going to use it. I'm going to delete that noise, click Noise again, and I'm going to click this little tiny button, this little tiny sphere at the bottom. I'm going to click that. And it's going to open up some alphas, or a folder that I've put some alphas in. I've navigated to this before, that's why it opened up to it. And these alphas you can get from the download center at ZBrush.com. So I'm going to select Weave 4, open. I'm going to increase my intensity, and I'm going to apply it. Just hit OK. And there you go. Now, there's some issues with this. The issues are pretty obvious. Scaling is off, because the way this noise is working is just applying it pretty straight onto the model. Looks like it's actually applying it almost from a diagonal. So it looks like it's applying it straight through in this way. Now, that's okay. We are getting some results, but we're getting that stretching, and that's not that okay. So what I want to do right now, besides adjusting the scale of this, I want to make sure that these are all nice, neat, and evenly distributed. So in order to evenly distribute these, we have to apply them through the UVs, not through 3D space. So that means the model has to have UVs. So let's just turn noise off, and let's go into the Z plugin palette, and you'll see a UV master subpalette. That's what we're going to work on right now. So let's set it back to its default. I'm just going to leave it just as it is, and I'm going to say unwrap the UVs, but probably best to do that at the lowest subdivision level. So I pressed Shift D to draw, and then click unwrap. Now it's going to take a little bit of time because this is not your standard organized production UV mesh. This is Dynamesh. It's got holes in it. It's a little hard for UV Master to figure this out, but it does. Okay, it's gone through, done its business. So let's go to the tool palette and to not texture map, but to UV map, and really zoom out. And I'm going to click this button, Morph UV. Turn polyframe on, you can see what it's doing. So that's going to have to do it. Now I've gone in outside of this lecture and I've done a bunch of things like apply polygroups, and I've done control painting, which you can see inside of UV Master. But there are some limitations when the topology gets as crazy as I have it right now, with holes in the center and all of that. So we'll leave it just like this. Turn polyframe off. Alright, let's apply that noise again. Zoom in and then edit the noise and click Apply Through UVs. Hit OK. And there we go. Now, we've got a definite scale issue here. So let's go Edit, and let's reduce the scale while increasing the intensity. There you go. Scale is still an issue. That looks much better. Still an issue, I would say. Let's take our model all the way up to the highest poly count. And I'm going to really increase that strength. Keep going. 0.05. Really increase that intensity. See if I can bring that up more. That's really small though. Really tiny. It's really hard to get that to the right setting. 0.008. And that's a little bit better. I'm happier with that. And I think that'll work. Now, you might want your own custom alphas. That's great. Highly recommended. But I think this'll manage for now. I'm just going to increase my intensity. I'm going to increase it again. And in fact, let's completely invert it and see what happens. Too much. And now we want to apply it to the mesh. Now before you apply it to the mesh, let's just switch our materials over. It's much easier to see it with this material. There's definitely some things going awry, but this will absolutely work for us for now. So I want to store a morph target. I'm storing it at the highest subdivision level before I apply the noise, because remember, this is just a 2D cheat. But let's apply the noise. It's going to go through and deform everything and push and pull the polygons. You're going to literally need this model to be up at a certain polygon count in order to have this detail show. So that's why I divided the model up to, I think, 3.3 million polygons. But this is enough. This gives me a little bit of form so that I can use cavity and different tools to just start to randomize the surface a little bit. So now the next thing we need to do is establish a base color. So I've brought in some texture reference. I'm just going to have that added to Spotlight. So go into the texture palette, select it, and then add it to Spotlight. And in my case, I've already added it, so I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to press Z to make sure the controller is on, and then C, as in cat, to sample a color. And I like to start dark to light. So then I'll make sure my RGB slider is 100, go to color, and fill the object. Okay. Oops, looks like we got an issue. But it's kind of cool. No, it's okay there. Alright, color, fill object. Z, Shift Z. Alright, so we have a basic blue tone We have some sculpting. Let's select our texture painting material, and I'm going to go mask by cavity. And let's really make sure that blur is low. Yeah, that's low. It's really visible in these places. Yeah, looks good. Okay. View mask is off. And let's set the color a little bit lighter, not too much, but definitely desaturated. And let's go into the, let's use the standard brush in RGB. And let's just paint it on. So I'm going to use symmetry. And let's make this really obvious. In fact, let's use a different color. See, the mask by cavity is going to give me this ability to have these little tiny bits and pieces left behind. So that's good. Let's, in fact, put our reference on. So I'm going to close the tray here. Shift Z for my reference. I'm going to press the space bar, or actually let's use the scroll button, and I'm just going to move my canvas over a little bit. There we go. Nice workspace. Z for my controller, C to sample some colors, Z to get rid of the controller. Probably best to turn symmetry off since this is actually so fast. And let's go in with alpha 56. Okay, hitting a few of the high points. Areas of more wear. Z, C to sample the color. Okay, and is that enough color variation? I don't think so. Press G just to see the model. I can be pretty certain that, this material is not going to give me everything I want. So that's not a problem. I'll just pre-calculate that. G. Okay, the buckles are really going to get this. Belt loops, I should say. Okay, and again, this is just the beginning. Okay, so we're making them very similar to how the reference is. But our zombie is obviously not going to be walking around with high fashion jeans worn by a attractive young lady in Prague. It's not quite the way that's going to work. Okay, let's look at the back. Rectus femoris, the hamstrings, that's going to get some wear and tear. Down here by the calf, that's getting wear and tear. Butt is going to get wear and tear straight across. So G for solo mode, or turn that off anyways, and I'd say those are lining up fairly well with expectations. Get that pocket really bright. Your hands is sliding in there all the time. Going to draw, accidentally went into move. And anything else I can do? Let's hit some yellow and start to add some variation, just very lightly. Not sure purple's got much of a place here, but okay, and then let's invert that mask. Let's see if I can make some of these areas darker. Okay, let's come in. I want to see that mask. I'm going to clear it and say mask by cavity again. Only this time, let's do a little trick. I'm going to go down in subdivision levels. I'm going to mask by cavity. And now the cavity is going to be it's going to be looking at a different level of form. So that's fine. Blur it. Turn view mask off. Go back up. And now I can go in and I can hit these lighter places now. This is not good. The view mask on. Let's invert that. There we go, Ryan. Now that's better. It's going to be in these areas that we get a little bit of that first hit of dirt accumulating and crap getting in there. And then work it, pick which side you really want and how you want that to be angled in. And let's go in with color spray. Not a bad idea. That's too obvious. That got out of hand, so I'm going to undo. Lower that Z intensity. Press Actual to change or recenter the canvas. And turn lazy mouse off by pressing L. Yep. Not 100% certain about that. Definitely not the right color, but it's adding some nice breakup to the tone. So I like that. I'll keep it for that. But now I'm going to come back in and select the darker tone. Really lower that intensity. Clear that mask. A little bit of integration. So I use the same brush but all over. Okay, and then let's reapply at a higher subdivision level the mask. Mask by cavity. Okay. View mask is off. Sample the white. And I like this, alpha 58, and then let's go into dots, and let's go and set orientation. So let's use our spin rate and get a little more spin. So I'll set it to 3. The goal here is to start to create some of that sense of striation. A little desaturated and lighter. Symmetry off. Let's get rid of spin entirely, actually. Just make sure your brush is really moving around at a lot of different angles. That could get dangerous, though. Could get to the point where it's way too repetitive. There. Switching to color spray, to give me some natural randomness. Okay, fighting back the lightness with this blue, basically that same blue tone, and so this back and forth is really going to do a lot to give me some lively texture to it too, and really break up some of that spherical stuff that was going on and is going on down here. But we do need to do some work to get these kind of dot strokes in with a certain natural qualities, a lot of just dirt, you know, in there. And I'm doing this quick. If you were doing this in production, you know, this would be a process, much more involved, and I'd be much more cautious of some of the different movements, you know, and everything would develop slower. Okay, get the belt loops, those are going to be very worn. Okay, so I would say I've been moving around a lot. We're not doing bad. Okay, definitely taking some time. We're at 24 minutes. but we're not doing too bad.